What's up, guys? Seeing as application season is almost here, today I'm going to talk about how to get into Boston College. If you aren't already subscribed, you should be, but also, my name is Shan Rizwan. I'm a rising junior at Boston College, majoring in economics with 2 minors in marketing and German. I've made a lot of videos this past year on Boston College and college in general. I feel like I have a good insight into what to put on your application, what to not put on your application in order to increase your chances of getting accepted. I've learned a lot about how to get into Boston College through making these videos, but also through my observations, my interactions with other students and professors, but also being a student for 2 years at Boston College. You're going to want to watch the end of the video to get a holistic idea of what it takes to get into Boston College. However, if there's just a specific part that you want to learn about, I'm just going to leave some timestamps here on the screen. These are things I wish I knew to streamline my application process and also remove a lot of the BS that I thought I needed but really didn't. With all that being said, let's get into the video. So first, I'm going to talk about ways to apply to Boston College. I was looking at an article on the Boston College class of 2023. BC offered 9,500 students admission to Boston College, which, based on how many applications they got, is about 27%, which is a decrease of 1% from the year before. Generally, they're getting more selective with who they accept to Boston College. It's imperative that you put a lot of work into your application. This upcoming application season is different for Boston College because they introduced Early Decision 1 and Early Decision 2. Previous years, it was Early Action, in addition to a regular decision. There's no data on Early Decision, so there's actually no idea to tell how selective Early Decision will be, but generally I'd say that just based on other colleges and how early decision works, you're going to have a better shot of getting into Boston College if you apply early decision. My thought process for applying early decision to a school is only apply there if you know you're going to go there for sure, obviously. And also, I just view early decision as a way to boost your chances to get into the school, like a reach school that you might think is out of reach. With all that being said, I think it's going to be a lot tougher for regular decision to get into Boston College because of early decision. So I think that more spots are going to be filled in the fall, and so BC can't accept as many students in the regular round. Take all of this with a grain of salt because this is all just speculative based on my part, but I have a pretty good feeling that's how it's going to be. So definitely, if you're watching this video right now, spend some time thinking about if Boston College is a school you want to commit to, or if you want to apply early to any other schools. Also, just a general college tip is to apply early if you're able to, because it just increases your admissions chances. If you have that school that's really sticking out to you, you should really apply early. Now on to GPA. Boston College, I couldn't find any GPA that they look for their applicants to have. I found some number on Prep Scholar, which is another college admissions advice website. It said that 3.93 GPA. I don't know how they got this number, but generally for a school as selective as Boston College, I would say to shoot for a 4 GPA. That's generally standard for colleges like as selective and on par with Boston College. General advice for GPA is that colleges want to see improvement year after year, so you want to have a upward trend where after freshman year you might have a certain GPA, and then sophomore year you should improve upon that GPA to show that you're getting better as a student rather than a downward trend. Boston College wants to see people that did well in their classes in high school but also challenge themselves academically. I would say that AP and IB classes and any other more rigorous classes are a must if your school offers them, but at the same time, don't take every hard class for the sake of putting it on your application. It'll add a lot of unnecessary stress to have your entire schedule a bunch of APs that you don't want to take, and then it'll just lead to you having a bad GPA, which will completely negate the idea of you taking hard classes, because the important thing is to find a balance between taking hard classes that challenge you while also doing well in your classes. So I would recommend finding hard classes that challenge you but you're also interested in, and not to just take every single AP just so you can say you took every single AP. In the grand scheme of things, those 1 or 2 extra AP classes unrelated to what you want to study in college aren't going to have much weight in the decision. So you can remove a lot of unnecessary stress by just not trying to overwhelm yourself with hard courses, but choosing courses that you're interested in that are also challenging and align with what you want to study in college. Shoot for having a good 4.0 GPA or if your school has some weird GPA metric, you generally want to have mostly A's, maybe some B's. If your GPA is under that 4, like mine was, you can balance that out in other parts of your application. So definitely don't count yourself out if you're not at that threshold. Ooh, the lighting looks really good here. What's up, guys? Editing Shan here. I just wanted to summarize again what I said for GPA. GPA is really important for the college admissions process, and especially BC. It's very important for the application process because they do want to have students that have good GPAs, and a good GPA shows that you worked hard in school. For juniors and seniors, you have less room to improve your GPA. Like when I was going to college admissions season, I actually didn't have that great a GPA, so I worked really hard to compensate in other areas. I could have done more for sure, but that was kind of my mentality because I knew my GPA was weaker. So if you're in that situation, I would recommend you do the same. For freshmen and sophomores, I would say, just keep working hard in your classes, going for A's and B's, mostly A's, and take hard classes, but don't take hard classes just for the sake of them being hard. Just challenge yourself in things that you're interested in. And also don't be afraid to try new classes. They might not be the hardest classes, but if they interest you, it might be better for you both academically and you'll just have more fun overall. One other thing is an upward trend. If you didn't do well freshman or sophomore year, that upward trend of doing better every year can help compensate somewhat for having a weaker GPA earlier in high school. Just keep trying to get better and get A's. Okay, back to the video. And now on to ACT and SAT scores that you need to get into Boston College. So again, from the Boston College class of 2023, the average ACT score for admitted students was a 33. The average SAT score was 1465. Similar to GPA, Boston College holds a lot of weight for standardized tests. So if you need some sort of metric to shoot for, I would say I would shoot for those numbers I said before. For my application, I had somewhat of a weaker GPA, so I did a lot better on my standardized tests, which helped supplement my weaker GPA. For these also, it's definitely always better to get above those scores, but if you have weaker test scores, you can also, other way around, supplement them with your GPA. And one thing about scores is that sometimes people like to obsess about their scores and try to get like a perfect score on their standardized tests, and they devote a lot of energy, especially during the application season and around then, to get these perfect scores. But I think up to a certain point, it doesn't really matter. As long as you meet that threshold, I think you should focus on other parts of your application, like your essays, your extracurriculars, and doing well in your classes and maintaining your GPA. So shoot for those numbers. If you're not at that point, balance it out with other parts of your application again. That's something I'm just going to say a lot. College admissions is a holistic thing, so if you're weak in some areas, you have to balance them out with other areas. And there's no hard and set rule for what numbers you have to have. But these are good numbers to shoot for in order to have a good chance of getting accepted. AP tests. APs and IBs and all that. For AP tests, you're going to want to shoot for 4s and 5s. It's really hard to say how much weight your AP tests hold. It really just depends. You want to get 4s and 5s, some 3s. Just definitely you want to do well on your AP tests and not get 1s. There's no hard rule for how many 5s or 4s you need, but generally you just want to have a good overall AP testing portfolio, if you will. For subject tests, also, you want to get above 700s is generally a number I think is acceptable. Or it's hard to give like an exact number because also if you have weaker subject tests, again, holistically, you can look at other areas to balance out weaker scores, but shoot for above 700 if you want those subject tests to stand out. For extracurriculars, again, there's no secret formula for what extracurriculars to take, what extracurriculars to do. Reflecting on high school and what would make an effective application, I would say to not spread yourself thin and do, I think that's the expression, and do a bunch of clubs that you're a general member where you don't involve yourself enough to fully dive into any of the clubs you're involved in. My advice would be to get involved in 1 or 2 clubs that you're really passionate about and go all in. It doesn't even have to be a club. It can be a project or organization or job or whatever. Find one or two things you're really passionate about and commit to them. An example, like if you're passionate about engineering, Boston College doesn't have engineering. If you're passionate about like pre-med or something, go volunteer at a hospital, do like volunteer work, and really just commit yourself to something and show that you're committed to one thing and you're not just doing it for, I mean, I guess you might be doing it for the resume, but you don't want it to look like to the admissions people that you're doing a bunch of things just for the resume. That's the worst thing. My advice for extracurriculars is to choose one or two things you're passionate about and fully dive into them. If you're in high school, that would be my best advice. Definitely don't overcommit yourself to a bunch of different things where you're barely involved in any of them. You don't really have enough time to fully dive into the subject or the organization and get a lot out of it. Also, at the same time, it's really just not as fun if you're just doing a bunch of things as like a general member and you don't really get to dive deep into whatever you're passionate about. That's my advice. For extracurriculars, do one or two things you're passionate about and try to relate them to what you want to study. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be what you want to study, but you just want to show that you're passionate about something and that passion could serve as an asset at Boston College or whatever school you're applying to. I think that made sense. You want to have like that one thing or those two things that really stand out in your application for extracurriculars to show, you know, your commitment and your passion for it. Because anyone can be like a general member of some club, but like for you to, let's say for example, even to be like the president of a club and like fully commit to that thing is a lot more weight than just being some general member for a bunch of clubs. Essays for Boston College. First, if you're watching this video right now, after you finish watching this video, watch all my other videos and then start writing your essays. No. Start writing your essays as soon as you can. Like, definitely start them before school starts. If you're a rising senior, start those before school starts. Start thinking about them, even if it's just brainstorming ideas, because that's probably one of the hardest parts, is trying to think of a good idea to write about. But I'd say for essays, start them as soon as possible, specifically for the Boston College questions. I made another video on college essays, which I'll link below, but generally for these essays, you want to touch on things about Boston College and show you did your research. And generally just an overall theme with these essays and any essays you're writing for the college application process is you want to show yourself off in a way that isn't really showing yourself off. You want to show yourself off and show why you'd be a good fit for that school you're applying to. With Boston College, it's no different. I'd say watch my other video on essays to get really in-depth idea of how to write a good college essay for whatever school you're applying to. Specifically for Boston College, somehow tie together ideas about Boston College into your essay, like for example, Jesuit ideals and the school's general themes within the school and the student body and alumni. Do your research, talk to people to get a better idea, implement the things you learn. In summary, for essays, start them early, proofread them a lot. The main thing is you want to sell yourself to Boston College and show why you'd be a good fit / an asset for their school. Finally, some secrets, if you will. Some secrets about applying to Boston College. If you're in the position to do so, I would say definitely visit the school and go on a tour. It's one thing to look at a school online and read about it, and it's another to actually be there and experience the campus. So if you have the opportunity to do so, I would highly recommend it. You get a better idea of what the campus is like. You get the chance to somewhat loosely envision what it would be like to be a student there. Other things, talk to students at Boston College, alumni, professors, to learn more about the school. That information you can use on your essay, and also just to know if you actually want to go to Boston College. Because if you're watching this video, you probably have interest in going to Boston College. But definitely also, one of the biggest regrets I have about the application process is I feel like I didn't really do enough research. And some of the schools I applied to probably weren't a good fit. And also there were schools that would be better fits I didn't look into whatsoever. So look at the schools you're applying to and really do your research and really figure out if you want to apply to them. And the other secret is if you're in a position to apply and you think Boston College is a reach school or super out of your reach, like you have no shot of getting in. If you have the financial resources to apply and you're really passionate about going to Boston College, might be somewhat of a controversial opinion. I would say apply, because there were schools I applied to that I thought were totally out of reach. And I was told by admissions counselors and people that these schools weren't going to accept me. And I was surprised by a lot of the results. So I would say apply if you have the chance to, because you never know what can happen. And especially if you put the work into your application, your essays, you can exponentially increase your chances. And you might surprise not only other people but yourself with what schools you can get into. Yeah, so that's a lot of the advice I have about Boston College. A lot of this advice can apply to any schools you're applying to in the college application process. If you want to know more about my own stats, I made a video on how I got into Boston College, which I'll link below. I made a video on how to write an effective college essay, which I would also recommend you watch if you're having trouble writing your essays. If you have any questions about what I said in the video or college in general, leave a comment down below and I will respond to it. Or you can follow me on Instagram at Shan Rizwan and DM me. I respond to every DM. That was a lot of talking. My throat feels really dry and my camera keeps shutting off. And as always, like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below if you have any questions or follow me on Instagram. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when I post my next video. And best of luck on the college process. New videos on the way, and I'll see you guys.